market and offer you some guidance on how to make your hard-earned money work to make your dreams come true. Learn about current trends, get tips on financial matters, and have fun, interactive discussions about your home inside and out. That's Real Estate and Money.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. For more information, visit kingcounty.gov.
Hey, community, listen to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church every Sunday at 10:45 a.m.
We invite you to get up and call a friend and tell them that New Hope is on live. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And now, our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Robert L. Jeffrey Sr. Everybody clap your hand, come on.
Listen to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church every Sunday at 10:45 a.m.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Ladies and gentlemen. Speak Up Seattle. We are Rainier Avenue Radio World, the station that cares.
Welcome to a pivotal moment in the world of podcast as we proudly present the Men's Mental Health Show featuring the renowned Larry Mabry in collaboration with the Maassen Group. This essential exploration of men's mental health wouldn't be possible without the invaluable support of Rainier Avenue Radio World. Now, let's dive into this crucial conversation with Larry Mabry and the Maassen Group. Your mental well-being matters. Here's Larry Mabry.
Hey, what's going on? Just checking in with everyone on this beautiful, what are we in, March? Yeah, March 3rd, 2025. Just want to tap in. How's everybody feeling about the weather? Hopefully everyone's feeling pretty good. It's pretty good weather here out here in Seattle. Today I want to talk about the 5 C's of mental health. The 5 C's of mental health. Want to kind of break those down real quick. First C of mental health, connection. What are you doing to connect with people? Think about it. You know, are you reaching out to those family members? Are you talking to those individuals that you connect with? Are you connected with yourself? Are you connecting with the source? You know, God, you know, whatever source you have, spiritual being that you relate to. The first thing, connection. The second thing, compassion. Are you giving compassion towards yourself? Are you being compassionate towards your friends and neighbors? Are you being compassionate towards your foes? Very, very important. The next one, number 3, coping. How are you handling situations when you're going through a trial and tribulation? Are you able to cope? Do you have coping strategies? How do you handle that? The fourth one, my favorite, community. Really, really important. It's very, very important to make sure you tap into the community. Who do you have that has your back? Who can you rely on? If you're going through a situation and you need to reach out to somebody, who can you reach out to? And then the last one is care, right? Are you caring for yourself? Are you caring for others? Are you being taken care of, right? So I wanted to kind of talk about those a little bit today. And so let's kind of go back to the beginning. Connection. Are you having positive relationships with others and institutions or people that you get along with? And I want to kind of talk about this and break it down a little bit. A lot of times when people have connection, it can be broken down on different levels. You have what we call like a professional connection. You can also have what we call like a political connection. You can also have what they call like a platonic connection, right? But the very red fiber that kind of ties it all together is how are you connected with yourself? Because each of those connections rely different aspects of yourself. So it's important to make sure that you're tuning into yourself every day, making sure you check in with yourself. That's important. The second one, compassion. Are you showing kindness and understanding towards others? And I'm gonna flip that around. Are you showing kindness and understanding towards yourself? And this is important because I know as men, and we dive into men's mental health, there's a lot of things that we're responsible for. And we go out, we handle our business, we do what we need to do every day. But how many times do we really, show compassion towards ourselves? And that might mean, maybe putting away that little brownie that you really wanted to get caught up with, right? Or it may actually mean, maybe you might not need to really be watching that TV show because it's 11 o'clock at night. You got to get up early, right? Compassion, right? Maybe you have a son, and for the 15th time, you've been telling him to do something, and you want to raise your voice, but you just have to really be mindful because you realize that it may have taken you 17 times to learn the same situation, and someone had to be compassionate towards you. And so that goes a long way. And think about when someone interacts with you and they're very compassionate, it allows you to process things a lot easier when someone's compassionate towards you. So make sure that you show compassion towards yourself and others. Number 3, we talked about before, coping, using strategies to deal with challenges. Now, raise your hand if you ever experienced some challenges. Yeah. How do you handle those challenges, right? That's important. Sometimes people go through situations where there's a challenge, and we want to fight against it. And I'm 53, and I'm at a point now where I realize that typically everything is a blessing. It's all a matter of perspective. And I'll give you a scenario. So I recall there was a time, I would say, when I was in my 20s, where I had a young friend that I was involved with. We were cool. Everything was great. And we had a conflict. We had a challenge where basically I wanted her to spend some time with me. She wanted to kick it out with her girlfriends. And so we had a disagreement. And she was very, I would say, a little rude with her presentation. And I like to keep it 100. I think I was a little rude too, right? And so if you come at somebody and you're aggressive, then that's going to kind of make them feel some kind of way and push them away. And I was a little aggressive initially because I didn't really want her to leave. And she wanted to spend some time with her friends. And at the time, she had a couple children, and I was watching the children. And I didn't want to kind of be home without her or whatever at the time. And then she left with an attitude, and then she kind of came back. And then, we were soft, we were kind, we were compassionate. We kind of worked through it. And we worked through it. But if I continue to be rude, disrespectful, if she was rude, disrespectful, that would probably be a negative coping mechanism. So a positive type of coping strategy would be to have what I would like to call active listening, right? So when someone is expressing themselves, you're not, sitting there in a soapbox ready to jump and pounce on them, but yet you're sitting there and you're really listening. You have your posture's kind of relaxed. You're chilling. You're taking it in. You may take some notes, even though you might feel antsy. You want to just kind of hear what they're saying and actively listen to what they're saying. And then if you want to communicate when they're done, you may want to go back. Hey, I just want to make sure what I hear you share is, and kind of repeat back what they shared. Hey, what I understood you say is this, is that correct? Excuse me. And then what happens is typically that person will come at you calmly. You'll come at that person calmly. And even though emotionally you may be a little stressed or a little tense, the fact that the conversation, the interaction was positive, you have a good coping strategy, right? So when you have that conflict, you're able to kind of work through it together. And then the next time that person has a conflict, then guess what? They're going to be more apt to do it. A negative type of coping strategy would be, to maybe have an attitude, maybe have the funk face, walk away, yell belligerent terminology at people. That would be a negative type of coping strategy. But if you are an active listener, you're listening with your heart, very, very important. You're listening to understand where the person's coming from. You're not listening to react to that person, very key. You're having that type of posture where you really want to kind of work with that person. But at the same time, sometimes that individual, they may be in a space where they're not willing to express themselves. So you have to honor that as well and set the boundaries too. And with that, that might mean you might have to say, you know what, I understand right now you're upset. That's cool. I get it. Let's come back and revisit this at another time and give yourself some space, get that other individual some space, and maybe come back later and you guys can cope through it together. That's really, really, really important. Coping strategies. And I kind of took some time on that because in our community, a lot of times, we're really quick to be aggressive, to shout out things. But when it comes to some positivity, it's very rare. And I want to kind of give this example too. One day I was mentoring a young man's mentor group, and we were in a circle. And you ever heard of that roast? You know how you roast people, where you go back and forth, your mama jokes or that type of thing. The students got really excited. I said, okay, cool, guys, we're going to do something different. We're going to do a positive roast. All of a sudden it got quiet. I was like, well, why is it quiet in here? And, when we went around the room, all of a sudden, nobody had stuff positive to say. And I'm like, wow, now if I would have stayed your mama jokes or something, we'd be out here all day long. But as soon as I said something positive, all of a sudden I heard crickets. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's up? But it was a time for us to reflect and really think about, man, do I have anything positive to say? And so we have to kind of take some responsibility and ask ourselves, okay, what type of things do I have in my arsenal to make sure that I'm coping properly? Is the things that I say are the things that I say, is it just strictly negative, or do I have some positive things in my arsenal to communicate to people? So that's very, very important. So so be mindful of how you're coping with people and take accountability for your actions. Okay, so number 4, community, feeling part of a group or community. Now this is the part that's really, really exciting here in Seattle. With community, I mean that language within itself is so diverse because you have your nuclear family, which is like a community. You go outside, you got the neighbors, right? That's like the outer exterior community. You have your grandparents. That's part of the community, right? You may go down the street and get caught up with your boys and you hooping at the local park or the organization, the Y or whatever. That's part of a community. And then when you go to work, let's say you're working for Microsoft or whatever, you realize different cultures and different individuals. That's a part of your community. And then let's say your girlfriend, she does yoga or different things. You get caught up with that. That's another part of community. And so the cool thing that I love about Washington is the communities here are so diverse, which adds to me a lot of flavor and a lot of complexity and a lot of depth to the relationship. And so that's one aspect of community. But you also have what I like to call the financial community too, right? So let's say that, and it's so weird because it's so funny. The way I grew up, I don't know if you guys ever heard of that book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but that was kind of like how my life was. So I had like 2 dads. I had a stepdad and my real dad, and they literally came from 2 different worlds. And so in Detroit, you grow up, you have a stepdad, people have stepdads or whatever. But it's like when you kick it with certain friends when they have their mom and dad and they don't have a step type situation, you kind of feel ostracized, but then you kind of connect with the people who have the other step, whatever. So like you have like a community there, which is kind of cool. But I'm sharing this because I noticed as I was growing up, I was part of very like different communities. So within my real dad's community, it was like he, back in the day, he was out there, right? So I would go spend some time with him and kind of know the street community, right? Which it's like you have street credibility. You had to handle yourself a certain way. But then on my rich dad, so to speak, side, who passed away, he was the one that was educated, right? So I had to, and I'm educated as well, so I had to learn the academic community, which was totally different. And it was so weird because what I noticed that I ended up kind of gravitating more to the street community, but could relate totally with the academic community, but then like kind of would go in and out between both communities. And so it was very weird because certain situations that I had to go through, my real dad was like, no, you got to learn these lessons, which were lessons like street lessons, right? But then with my real dad, my stepdad, he would have to teach me life lessons, right? And so there's a huge benefit to having community, because there's some true pillar type things that you learn within the community that you can't learn in the home, or you can't learn at school, right? Or you can't learn with your friend group. And so the community is so powerful. And so I'm sharing that because I noticed when I came here to Seattle, 4 or 5 years ago, the skill sets that I brought, the value in it was huge, because I realized there's a certain, like I would say in the community in the streets, I would say that they're creative. I would say they put more emphasis on creativity within that community, from my experience. And I would say in the academic community, it was more placed on logic and processes, right? It's very interesting. And ironically, both communities had those things, but they carried them out differently, right? It was like the street community was more like, it was like the law of the land type thing, more universal law type thing. Whereas I noticed the academic community was more structured, more hierarchical, even though, again, the street community was the same way, but it was more I would say, like the animal kingdom, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird when I say it, but it's like, there's a pecking order in terms of, if you look at a pack of dogs, right? You have the alpha dog and everyone kind of follows. That's kind of more what I felt within the street, right? And it wasn't really stuff that they told you. It was like intuitively you kind of felt it. But in academia, everyone puts their name on plaques and stuff, and you can see, oh, he's a president, this type of thing. And so it was weird because I had to kind of learn both of those worlds, which was so different. But I wanted to bring that out here because it's important that we value the community. And I realized without that experience, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And with community, there's such a soul feeling type experience, once you kind of get to know the community, because they could teach you a lot of things, kind of like being in the wild, right? So I wanted to share that. And then the fifth one I want to talk about is care, right? Taking care of yourself and others. And actually, to me, that's like the antithesis of the community, right? Because when you take care of yourself and you have an overflow, you want to nurture the community. So as you get older, at least for me, I realize, there's a lot of cool things I've done in my life, a lot of mistakes I've made. And I'm at a point where I've learned so much that I want to help those individuals kind of coming behind me to circumvent some of the perils and some of the challenges that I made, for those people that are willing to listen. And so that's a huge benefit of community. But how do you know if a person cares, right? We say, hey, he cares. Yeah, he cares. Who cares, right? But how do we truly know that that person cares? Does anybody know? Well, I would say the one way that we would know that a person cares is we kind of feel like how authentic they are, right? Are they tapped in with their heart, or is this just a business transaction, right? And that doesn't mean that, people who have business transactions don't care, because I conduct business within the community all the time. But, you basically can kind of feel that, how you kind of connect to that person. But it goes back to what I said initially about that connection, because if you're not connected within yourself, if you're not feeling like you're one within yourself, then how do you know that the person that you're communicating with cares, right? And so I share that because I would say earlier on, I cared about people, but you got to be careful, because sometimes you can care about people more so than they care about themselves. And so it's important to have balance with that, right? You have to have balance. And that means that you're showing self-care, and then the overflow of the self-care that you get for yourself is kind of what you share with other people, right? Okay, so anyway, I wanted to share that, the 5 C's. So I'm curious to see if you guys can reach out and kind of let me know what you're thinking. Do you think that these 5 C's are important? Let's go back through them again. We got the connection, making sure you have a positive connection with yourself, with others, with institutions, with people in the community, with family, extended family, people outside your realm or just people you interact with, making sure you have that connection. You have connections with coworkers, connections with people you may work with, connections maybe with people you go to school with, maybe your family members, right? And you might say, well, man, Larry, I'm struggling with having this connection with my mom. Well, I want to keep it 100 with you. If you have a situation where, the relationship with mom is a challenge, unfortunately, if that's not healed, typically it can spill over into relationships that you have with females. So earlier on, a couple episodes, I had Andrew on here. We talked a little bit about the mother wound and the father wound. And basically it's true, because the first person that you experience, a loving relationship with is your mom and dad. And so if the mother or the connection you have with your immediate family is traumatized and you don't heal that trauma, unfortunately, you're going to carry that out. And so how can you work through that? Well, you can always reach out to a person like myself. I can assist you, or you can reach some other professional help to help you work through those processes. Another thing I want to talk about too is compassion. And that's a tough one because, if you grow up in a family that's really hard, that demands a lot of things from you, you may not have been taught like how to be compassionate. And I've talked to some clients and they'll say, man, showing kindness and understanding others, man, that's being weak, and yeah, I mean, I get their point. However, what's the problem with being nice to somebody? Like, why is that an issue? Like, think about it. When you interact with someone, don't you feel some kind of way when you feel like, someone's being authentic with you and they're just being just cool? Like, you feel like, okay, cool, I want to invest the money, or I want to interact with this person, or it's just a reciprocated type of relationship. But it all starts with you. So if you're feeling a little angry and not happy with your life, then unfortunately, that's going to cascade or be projected on other people. So make sure you show kindness to yourself, right? That means being authentic with yourself, nurturing yourself, going for walks, being mindful of your self-talk. That's really, really, really important. A lot of times we pick on things from other people. We say negative, defamating things about ourselves, and that's not really showing compassion to ourselves. Okay, number 3, coping. We talked a little bit about that again. So, what are we doing to make sure that we're able to work through challenges, right? Are we going to get along with everybody? No, we're not going to always get along with everyone. So we have to learn how to cope through a situation. So it probably wouldn't be a good idea, if your boss said, okay, I don't really want your services anymore, if you turn around and slap him in his face. That probably would not be a good situation. I know, when you're 4, that may have worked. Your little brother maybe took something from you and you just, what I'm saying? But unfortunately, when you get older, that could be a lawsuit. That could actually even go worse, where your boss could actually be a taekwondo expert and jack you up and you end up in a hospital, or it could be a situation where you just lose your job all because you lost control. So it's important to make sure you have coping skills where you can receive some, maybe they may say something that you don't like. You can't take it personal. You have to take it with stride. You can say, what, I appreciate you sharing this with me. What can I do better? Making sure you control and garner your anger. Don't take it too personal and work through those challenges. Really, really important. And then number 4, community, feeling a part of a group or community or organization. And, every single part of the organization or community is important. And so how does that start? Well, it kind of starts within your nucleus, right? So if you are having a good situation within your family, you can marry that and pull it out. Or sometimes, depending on the family structure, you might feel more of a community outside of your family, right? Because you feel like a lot of your needs are being met, and maybe they're not kind of being met within the household, right? So that's one way. We notice like gangs and different types of organizations, they kind of follow that particular suit. But anyway, what are you doing to become part of the community or to show that your knowledge is being extended? As we get older, there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we carry on within our DNA and just through our experiences, that some aspects within the community is being lost. And so if you have those gifts, bring it to the community. It can be very beneficial. Also, the last one, but not least, care. We talked about that before, taking care of yourself and others. You feel so good, when you just take care of yourself and others, right? It's like that that hug. When you get that hug, you feel good, you feel supported, and the person supporting you. You get the firm handshake. Hey, how are you? It's good to see you. Or if you're donating your time, because people might say, well, man, how do I show that I care? Well, it could be donating your time, dropping some words of wisdom, helping somebody on their path. Sometimes you might have to throw people a couple dollars, right? Or just, support a person when they're going through some things, right? And so anyway, I want to put that out there. I shared this before, but those individuals that are needing support, you can feel free to reach out to us. I'm a certified peer support as well as a life coach here in Washington, so you can feel free to reach out. We had an event that was really, really powerful this Sunday, and saw quite a few people in the community out there. But also too, I just want to say, hey, I appreciate you guys reaching out. For those individuals that did, all the words and wisdom that you guys have shared. What are some more things that we could talk about moving forward for men's mental health as we roll into the spring? Okay, great, cool. So I wanted to also thank Rainier Avenue Radio for their support. I've been here almost a year. They've always had my back. Appreciate that. So make sure you guys show them some love. Also, too, before we go, make sure you guys check in for my next show that'll be coming on, Better Together and Living Powerfully, hosted with Dr. Tracy Harrell, and then followed by sports talk program, Lead Line Sports at 7 o'clock. Make sure you guys take a look at that. That should be cool. I haven't heard about that in a while. Also, too, next week, I'm curious to see, what do you guys want us to talk about? Has this been very beneficial? I've had a couple people kind of reach out to me, say, hey, that was cool. Some people talked a little bit about the mother's wound. They talked a little bit about the father's wound. Somebody said, hey, should we talk about the inner child's wound? I'm curious to see, what do you guys think? So reach out, shoot us an Instagram message or Facebook post and let us know. Reach out to the Maassen Group 1 at Gmail. Appreciate that. Let us know what you think, right? Okay, guys. So real quick, 5 things. You guys remember what they are before we roll out? Anybody remember? Okay, no worries. We'll go through them real quick and then we'll wrap it up. First thing, the 5 C's you want to have is connection, compassion, coping, community, and care. So make sure you guys remember that by the next time we connect. And without further ado, guys, you guys have a good one. Peace.